Hello guys, and welcome to this VolksWizard video, and it's a very momentous video today because it's my first ever question and answer session. So big thanks to everybody who submitted some questions via Twitter and Instagram. I'm pretty sure we're going to cover them all in the next few minutes, but before we do that, I want to say thanks to everybody for supporting the channel because we've got 14,000 subscribers now. The view count is doing really well, sort of 80 to 100% better than average, and the back catalogue's getting a load of views and a lot of comments, so that's brilliant to see. We're finally gaining traction, which should mean when the lockdown is lifted, I should be able to make the best content I've ever been able to do, but we'll see what happens. This video's come out of the lockdown, so it's not all bad. I've always wanted to do a question and answer session, and now seems like the best time to do it. So without any further ado, let's get started. I'll put my glasses on my head. I've got my questions on the phone. So first up, we have one from Al Bliss AHB. How are you doing, Al? Alan asks, which of the cars you currently deal in are the biggest risk and or best reward? Well, I always struggle with nearly new stuff. So I've sold a lot of stuff for like 20 grand plus, like Golf 7.5 Performance, some R's, made like peanuts on them really. They've been under warranty, but it's almost like you have to have a risk, so they're not under warranty if you want to make money. So they're tricky. Main dealers are pretty ruthless, especially when it comes to new stock. So if you bought a year-old 7.5 for a decent price, you'd probably find that somebody could get one for brand new or pre-reg maybe for similar money, and that could just happen overnight, so you could be stuck a bit. So yeah, I've sold too many too expensive cars for too little profit, and I'm trying to avoid that. And luckily I've gone into lockdown with relatively old cars around me which are pretty stable in value. Best reward, well, GTI seems to be pretty good because they're under warranty, they're pretty simple cars, demand strong, supply's pretty short, so you know the margins are not big by any means, but the risk is tiny and prep work is generally minimal on all of them. So yeah, I like that GTI. It's just going to be a bit unpredictable with the new model hitting the dealers. Should have really happened by now, but lockdown's delayed that. So yeah, that's one to watch. May not last forever, but yeah, it's definitely keeping me afloat right now. On to question 2 then. So go to 10 or go to 102. What is your favourite performance Golf ever? Gee, that's a really tricky one. There's obscure stuff like Golf Limited, G60 Limited. That's probably favourite in that I've never driven one, I think, but would like to. Rallies are pretty cool, but I think favourite has to mean something you can drive and enjoy it and not worry too much about it. And I've said it many times, I don't know, it's probably very predictable, but I think Edition 30s right now are the best place to put your money because they're cheap, they're not that far behind Mark 7, and with a remap, they're bloody quick. I mean, you could buy a 230 horsepower GTI a year ago, you could have bought a 230 horsepower GTI in 2006, so, you know, just buy the Edition 30. Ted Welford asks, number 3 then, best history of any car you've ever sold? Well, with regards to previous ownership, I think in 2013 I sold Vicky Butler Henderson's Mark II Golf GTI 16 valve. You all know Vicky. We did a bit of work with Fifth Gear back in about 10 years ago, and it came out of that. Supplied some of their competition cars. TT Quattro Sport they gave away was one of ours. I think there was another one, I can't remember. Oh yeah, Oak Green 16 valve, which I've got a bit of unfinished business with. I should be driving that again this year. So those were competition prizes. When Vicky wanted to sell hers, people recommended me. I thought she was going to come here, painted the wall over there, it just got dropped off by somebody on a trailer, and it needed a bit of work, but it was her car for a hell of a long time. I bought Top Gear Mag from sort of 95 to 2000, and she did a new car, your new car or your first car supplement, and she was standing in the GTI with her head out the sunroof, and that was her car, and it came here. It took about a year to prep it and sold it, I think it was 2013 April May, don't know where it is now, G714LEW. And that was it. Yeah, it's the best one I can think of, Ted. So yeah, I hope that was good enough. On to number 4. Matty J. Benno, that's Matt Bennett, and Jake Wilco asked the same question. If you weren't allowed to own a VAG car, what would you buy? Well, there's a question. Do you know what? I have a bit of a fascination with a Morgan Aero 8. So I'll have a Morgan Aero 8, please. Mark Chan 1987, best track car for under 5k if you haven't got a garage and not a lot of time to tinker, fun, reliable and easy to live with, not an MX-5. And I asked him if it was VAG or not, and he said both. So I think you can buy a nice Mark 5 Golf GTI for under 5k. There's a production GTI series, which they do spend a lot of money on to make them into racing cars. You don't need to do that. So get a cheap GTI, strip it out a bit, upgrade suspension, brakes, sticky tyres. You've got a good car there. Going non-VAG, again under 5k, it's tricky, but you need to allow a bit of money for track days and a bit of prep. I'd go Renault Clio, not the Trophy, but the one beneath that. So what's that about, 2001, that kind of thing? Yeah, it's a good car. Okay, on to number 6, and Ian Saxton and Ollie Marple both ask the same thing. Any car you've sold and then regretted afterwards? The only one that I regret was my B5 RS4. It was a dream come true buying that car. A lot of things fell into place for me to actually buy it back in February 2007. I had it for 18 months, sold it to a friend of a friend. I think he's still got it. It was denim blue, so one of 3. And I took it to Germany for a friend's wedding in August 2008, and then with the economy crashing around our ears, I just thought it's time to sell it, because it was still very early in my business career. I'd only been going 6 years, and every little sort of pound made a big difference, and I saw that car depreciating, which it did for a bit, but now I think it's at least where it was before, probably more. I think I sold it for about 19,000 back then. It would definitely be worth that today. So yeah, I regret that a bit. Maybe he'll sell it to me one day, but you've got to move on. Okay, on to number 7 then, from Nigel Smith. Any car you've regretted not buying? Well, this is quite an easy one. So a few years ago I was having a bit of a Porsche phase. I got a bit bored of Audi RS models and bought a 911 to sell on. Quite liked it, and had about 2 or 3 or even 4 after that. Well, on a trade auction website, a 996 Gen 2 Speed Yellow GT3 came up at Tollbar Warwick. They tried to sell it, got a bit bored with it, and then sold it on to the trade, and I missed that by one bid, so £50. And to this day I've never driven a GT3, so I do regret that. And after that, prices rocketed, so it's even less likely I'll ever buy one. I didn't really feel too comfortable about buying one unseen, but when you get there, if you don't like it, you can walk away. A little twist in the tale is that I think a few months later I'd been asked by a customer of mine to go and pick up an RS4 that a Porsche specialist had tried to sell for them on their behalf and failed. And guess what was in the showroom? This Speed Yellow GT3. And memories are a bit faded now, but I do remember thinking it wasn't particularly great condition and I hadn't missed much, but I still love to drive a GT3. Okay, on to number 8 then. Malcolm, all the way from Australia. How did you learn to fix cars? Well, yeah, I haven't got a background in the motor trade, as we'll probably come to later, but I am a bit of a tinkerer, so as soon as I got my car, if I could fix it, I'd have a go. And I kind of been doing that throughout my life before then, really, whether it's computers or train sets or joysticks for my Atari. Cars were a bit complicated, or bikes. Actually, I was really into bikes, mountain bikes. So yeah, did that, and then got to know a bit, but still, when I started this business in 2002, I knew nothing. And you can't stand still because everything keeps on changing. But the big thing that helped me learn about cars was getting the ramp, because my mechanic left here but sold me the ramp. And as soon as you can lift a car up, everything's so much easier. So you just have to get the tools, look on the internet for how to do stuff, because most stuff is on there, and with a little bit of skill and a lot of patience, you can pretty much do everything. Malcolm also asks what plans for the channel. Well, who knows? I'm kind of doing a lot of older stuff these days. I'm quite happy with that, so hopefully you're enjoying that. But yeah, it's a bit unpredictable, really. But yeah, I'd say I kind of work on cars here and I can sell them, so I think I'm going to bring more of that to the channel, the buying and selling process and the working on cars, rather than sort of new car press launches, although I'd still love to go on some of those for a bit of variety. And Malcolm also asks favourites, journos and magazines. Well, magazines are easy. The ones I buy are Evo, Car, and occasionally Modern Classics if they've got something I like. Journos, Richard Meaden from Evo, Henry Catchpole, of course, Ben Barry. He's a really great writer. You can always tell a Ben Barry story when you're reading it before you see his byline. Okay then, let's go on to number 9 then. Josh Woodford, most underrated VAG car. Well, I kind of can't help thinking Seat. So Seat Leon Mark III is a great car. The Mark II, I didn't like it. It looked like a people carrier, and a lot of people were put off by that. Mark III came along, and the Golf was really good at the time, so people kind of really ignored the Mark III Leon. But I think right now the most underrated VAG car is the Ibiza, because they're brilliant. They're made in Spain, unlike the Polo, which is made in South Africa. They look great, the spec's amazing. It looks and feels at least as good as an A1, and they're a lot cheaper. So yeah, underrated car right now, the current Seat Ibiza. So much so that when we come to sell my wife's Mark V Golf GTI, I've got her lined up for a Seat Ibiza 1 litre TSI FR DSG. That'd be perfect. I'd enjoy driving it, she'd enjoy driving it, and yeah, should be a nice car. Okay, next up, Davey Morelli. How do you rate each Audi RS4 generation, and then which is your favourite? Okay, start off then with the B5 RS4. Yeah, it looks great. I mean, the wide arches, got a lot of class. It doesn't drive that great. Engine's sensational, bit laggy. What have we got next? B7. Yeah, heavy engine up front, reasonably good chassis, pretty stealthy to look at depending on spec. B8, didn't really gel with that. It's a bit too heavy a car to have such a torqueless engine, which needs to be wound up, but at least you've got automatic to do that with. And then B9, yeah, I like that a lot. It oversteers sometimes when you don't expect it to. It sounds all right. If you watch the video I made back in 2018, you'll see I got on with that quite well. So which one do I like the most? Ooh, that's a good question. Do you know what? It's going to be the B9, unfortunately. B5's great to look at. B7's pretty much good at a lot of things, but B9 is fast, and most importantly for me, it goes around corners. Okay, number 11 from Dave, DSM3DS. That's come from Twitter. So what do I think of modifications? Well, I've modified cars, so I like them, but then I also hate them. It just depends on the context. So obviously if you're going on track, then brilliant, make your car track ready, because a road car isn't really designed to be hammered on track lap after lap. If you're modifying your car to drive on the road, but you're making it undrivable on the road, then I don't really like that, but each to their own. A lot of people will lower a car for looks, they don't really care about the way it drives. So if that's what you want to do, that's up to you, but it's not my cup of tea. Okay, number 12 then from John Scrappino. Mr. Bruns is your handle. If you had to own one GTI of any model or vintage, bang for buck, what is the best? I think Edition 30 again, because you can map them to 300. Again, modifications there are viable because it's a strong engine, and it's almost like it was detuned to fit the marketing brief. So yeah, remapped Edition 30. What can you buy those for? £5 grand, £6 grand now. Great car. Okay, number 13, Mark Rogers at GTI Today, and also from the Pats in the Hat, Patrick, via Instagram. What did I do before VolksWizard? Well, yeah, that's a good question. Okay, I came out of university after just doing a year in '92, and my mum found me a job at Birmingham Hippodrome Theatre in the box office. It paid, and I had shifts, so I had mornings free if I wanted to, and stuff like that, go cycling, whatever. It was quite handy, but I still work late now as a result of being conditioned into it back then in the early 90s. So yeah, that's what I did. I worked in the box office, and the ticketing computer systems were just coming into theatres, and they had nobody to look after it. My background of sort of fixing anything, and I used to do a lot with computers when I was a kid, so it came natural to me to take over that role there. So they gave me that role with the ticketing system, and I also kind of became a bit of an IT manager, but without the salary, and did that for a bit. Then the Hippodrome was shut down to be refurbished, and I got a job at the Royal Shakespeare Company, which was purely the ticketing side and a bit of marketing data, which was really boring, and I didn't enjoy it there, and I got made redundant. But before I left, the finance manager, Nick Palladino, let me buy a Golf that was a touring lady's car. She used to go around to all the different venues where the RSC would tour. It was a Golf 1.6 CL in maritime blue, base blue, just had a clutch from listers. He said, if you pay the cost of the clutch, you can have the car. Now, when I showed an interest, suddenly other people in the office were also interested in it. But Nick, true to his word, sold the car to me because I was the first person to show an interest. And I bought that and sold it, made a bit of money, and that set me on the road with VolksWizard. So thanks, Nick. But actually, before that, I'd been dabbling in Mark II Golfs, so I'd owned them, and yeah, could work out there was a market for them. It was a bit of a hobby at the time, and I knew I was on borrowed time really doing that from home, so I needed to get premises, and came here in 2002, and the rest is history. Okay, number 14, Dudders Do Right 1011, V8 or V10 R8, pros or cons? V8's cheaper, it's better on fuel, it's probably cheaper to insure, it's as fast as you need to go, and that's really important, because on the road that I drive home on, my Leon diesel 150 is quicker than my R8 because the R8's just not suited to it, and I don't think a V10 would make it any faster because it's not the speed that's holding me back, it's the actual bouncing of the car on the road and stuff like that. So yeah, V8's, you know, a real world performance car. V10 though sounds amazing. It's more of a supercar. You don't pay an awful lot more for it. You can say you've got a Lamborghini engine. Yeah, so can't really go wrong. Whatever your budget suits, really. Number 15, Eric Stifler, 1984, Mark 7 Golf R or RS3 8P. So 8P is the first gen RS3. So yeah, it's an easy one that. I'm a bit of a chassis man. I don't really care so much about engines and speed, but I like a nice chassis. RS3 8P does understeer, believe the hype. While 7R, yeah, it's a good chassis. So yeah, Golf R. Paul Tanner at Long Lane Royal, RS3 Saloon or Sportback. Easy one. I'm a mature gentleman and Saloon suits my style, but I also like the look of it. Always have done in whatever spec it is, whether it's RS3 or A3. And yeah, drove one in the Alps. I'll put a link in the description to those videos. Came back, bought one, and yeah, loved it. And then drove one at the press launch of the WLTP car. And again, it's a cool car. But yeah, either way, great cars. Okay, number 17 then, from Callum Gray, at Cal Gray. Do you prefer milk or dark chocolate? That's the good one. Both. Sometimes I eat dark and I like it, but I didn't know I liked it. So yeah, either. I used to live in Bourneville, so I should say dark, but yeah, I'll have anything. Okay then, so Usman224 from Instagram. How do I feel about the electrification of sporty vehicles? Well, that's a expansive question, and do you know what? I don't feel too bad. I drove the GTE last year, I had it for a couple of weeks, and was pleasantly surprised. There was potential there, but the tech needs to get a bit better, so you get more power basically from the battery than what that was offering, and that's what I think the Mark 8 will offer us. It's got proper GTI levels of performance. That was 204 PS, and the new one I think is going to be 245, so that's a big step forwards. I think RS6 performance is going to come with 700 horsepower, and the extra 100 horsepower over the normal model will be from hybridization. So again, sounds good to me. R8 unfortunately is going to get it, but I'm open-minded about it. Okay, Blessed990 has got question 19 then. Ideal spec on an R32. We don't say Mark 4 or 5. Mark 4, 3-door, deep blue. Oh god, or black maybe. Quite like the cloth seat centres. And that's it. There's not really an awful lot of spec on those, maybe cruise control. Mark 5, that's a good question. Deep blue does look stunning. 3-door, probably manual, sunroof, parking sensors, cruise. Not bothered about multifunction steering wheel. Yeah, good car. Okay, number 20, Tom Banks. How did the VW love affair start? That's a good question. Well, I'm so old that I was around in the 80s, and I don't know if you remember the 80s, but it was a period of economic boom, and people were buying things like E30 BMWs and Golf GTIs left, right and centre, and they were cool cars. The advertising from Volkswagen was on point, so that all kind of got into me as a child. And then in the 90s, when I learnt to drive and we were post-economic boom into sort of a bit of a slump, all those cars were cheap, so you could buy a 6-year-old Golf GTI, big bumper, for £3,000, and that's what I did. So my influences were from peers really, because I nearly bought a Vauxhall Nova as my first car, but my first car was a Polo. A girlfriend's friend had a Mark 1 Golf GTI, I think Clipper Cabriolet, and sort of if you squinted, a Polo with the round headlights, even though it was the bread van, looked pretty similar. I wanted a Golf 1.3 as my first car, couldn't afford the insurance, so got that as my, well, I got a 1.6 as my second car. So yeah, probably just through 80s and then the peer pressure of what to choose, because I didn't really know much about cars, I was more into bikes. And finally, number 21, Rion Bradshaw, this is from Instagram. Do I think Mark 5 R32 will become a collector's item in years to come? Well, what do you think? Since the R32 came out, stuff's been downsized. It's going to get smaller, it's going to get more hybridised. The thought of a Golf with a 3.2 litre engine will be ridiculous. And there's one sort of over there. And yeah, guaranteed it's going to be a collector's item. Mark 4's already there. I think Mark 5, maybe not such a cult car, nicer to drive, but anything with a big engine like that, Alpha GT, TT 3.2, yeah, they'll all be looked at as being dinosaurs, but in a good way. Okay guys, well I hope you've enjoyed this first VolksWizard question and answer session. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, please comment, please share, please do subscribe, click the bell notification icon, and I'll see you for the next one, hopefully very soon.